This is a hot video today. This is for everybody out there that wants to build up their sales skills. Now ask yourself this question seriously. Have you ever been nervous on the car ride going on an appointment because you're not exactly sure what you're going to say to the seller? Or maybe you didn't pre-qualify enough. Or maybe you just want to know more about the psychology of understanding the motivations of distressed property owners. This video is a training with my company, with the people in my company, with Steve Trang from Stunning Homes. Steve is a phenomenal real estate professional and also sales coach. So check this out.
And they get offended. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I heard in the beginning that you said you're gonna be okay if I ask you some questions. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, okay. This actually happened last week with Max. Mm-hmm. She's like, and this thing, I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions, or I'm gonna ask you some questions. And she's like, well, hold on, why are you asking me so many questions? Like, I am so sorry. I thought we agreed in the beginning that I was gonna ask some questions about the property. She's like, oh yeah, you did. And he just continued right along with the conversation. Mm-hmm. So it was a real slight bump.
What is this? What is this?
Obviously.
No.
Upfront contract.
Okay, so this is like the process?
Appreciate, typically, obviously, naturally. Every conversation starts with, and it doesn't appreciate, thank you for allowing me to come to your house.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for taking my call.
Okay.
Typically, what most homeowners want to know is what our process looks like,
Yes.
how much we can pay,
Yes.
and how soon, how long they can stay in the home.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, for me to answer some of these questions for you, I'm gonna have to ask you some questions. Some of them may even be personal. Would that be okay?
Okay.
Naturally, one of two things are gonna happen at the end of our meeting. Either A, we're doing business together, or B, we're not. So if you feel like we're not the right buyers for you, would you feel comfortable telling me, Steve, you're just not the right guy for us? Or your offer's no good?
Yeah.
So
Right.
this is lead follow-up, this is appointment, this is
Everything. Every time we talk.
Everything comes down to ATON. Let's get rid of all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get rid of this. So ATON, right? Appreciate, typically, obviously, and naturally. I love it because it's so. How are you trained? Are you feeling this?
I
Are
do,
you guys
yeah,
feeling
yeah,
this
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit? You
So-
know what I mean? Does it give you a roadmap kind of when you're doing the lead follow-up?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, the flow.
Appreciate, thank you for, talking to me or I mean, what would your intro be? Thank you for taking my call. Yeah.
Thank you for taking my
Thanks for
call.
taking my call,
Right? Because the first part I talked to her, whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna, have you thought about whatever? She said she's looking for information. Promise her some information.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Then we're leading into this.
Yeah. And how often do the prospects try to steer the conversation with asking us questions? He's getting rid of it on the typically. Mm-hmm. Typically, when we're talking to homeowners, right? Or typically with the sellers that we've worked with before, they want to know how much we can give them, if we're all cash. They want to know about our company a little bit. They want to make sure that everything gets done as smooth as possible. So I'm going to explain everything there, right?
Right. We're going to explain all those things. And do we actually explain those things later? I don't know. If we get to it, we get to it. But
You get to it because you don't want to overtalk.
right.
It's,
We're asking questions.
75% listening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we're going to ask them all the questions. They're going to do all the talking.
Yeah.
Right?
So you do ATON at the beginning of every call.
Beginning of every call, beginning of every meeting.
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Obviously,
for me to answer some of your questions or tell you what you want to know, I'm going to have to ask you some questions. Some of them may even be personal. Is that okay?
to get this process started, we have to sign the paperwork. No? Why are you laughing at me like that?
Do you do that?
That we could do that at the very end.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm saying like you're on an appointment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me over. Typically what I do is I walk around the house, I take a bunch of pictures of everything so that we can see exactly what needs to be done. And then we sit down at the table, and obviously we need to get the paperwork done to get the process started. And then naturally, you might have some questions at the end, and we'll just save those for then.
But naturally
So
it's important. Here, this is where we get rid of I think about it.
That's when you what?
Get rid of I think about it. I got to think about it.
Right.
Naturally, one of two things is going to happen.
So you go naturally one or two things. Yeah.
All right, naturally, one of two things is going to happen.
See,
You're going to do business with me, or we're going to do business together, or we're not. If you feel uncomfortable with me, or if you don't like if you don't think I'm the guy, if you don't think our offer is good enough, would you feel comfortable telling me?
Okay. So I just went for it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to just get this contract signed type of thing. So what you're saying is, thank you so much, Steve, for having me for your house.
This is the
Typically
beginning.
What happens, you show me around, I take some pictures, and then what we do is we sit down at the table. Obviously, we have to go through the contract, make sure you're comfortable with all the terms we discussed on the phone, and naturally, one of two things is going to happen. Either you decide to move forward, and we get the ball rolling, and we get this done as smooth as possible.
We agree to work together.
Or you agree that you decide that we're not the right fit, and
that's either way is okay.
either way is okay.
Cool.
So we're giving them permission to network with us.
Do you feel it? Oh.
So there's no more, I gotta think about it. Because I gotta think about it. Eric, I am so confused. I know when we met in the
How
beginning.
would you do this for land?
It's the same thing. So I'm sending out letters,
Mm-hmm.
and if they call me or they send back a signed letter,
Yeah.
then I'm going to call them and thank them
Mm-hmm.
for taking my call. And then I'll be typically, now that you've signed this letter, or
You can just explain
whatever the process
how it goes.
is.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, what do we do for obviously?
Yeah, I don't know after an accepted offer, because after that point,
I think obviously.
Well, some
I need
people
to-
do a counter offer though.
Obviously, escrow's going to contact you and ask
Yeah,
you
I think
questions.
that this is probably more
Beginning of a
if
meeting.
They want to call you and say, "Hey, I got your offer in the mail.
Counter
Cool.
offer.
I want to counter you," or "Who are you?" You
Right.
know what I mean? Who are you? Right? I got your offer in the mail.
right.
Who
This is where
are
the
you?
supply is.
Oh, thank you so much for calling me.
Yeah.
And then what?
Typically, the people we work with
Yeah.
in land, we
They want to know.
How about typically I get a lot of calls like this? Typically, I get a lot of calls like this, right?
Well, so it's typically they want to know A, B, or C.
Yes.
A, B, and C.
A, B, or C.
So you gotta figure out what those A, B, C is for your landlords.
Okay, so you got typically A, B,
They
and
want
C.
to know.
Typically they want to know
Yeah.
A, B, C. Obviously, for me to answer those questions, I'm gonna have to ask you some
What do you
questions.
usually say for wholesale on typically? What do you usually say for wholesale?
Typically, homeowners want to know who we are, what we can pay,
It's the same thing.
how we work, or what the
Yeah.
process looks like, or how long they can stay, whatever. We limit it to 3, but
Yeah.
those,
Yeah.
just those 3 things.
That'd be the same thing.
Yeah.
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 I don't think it'd be that different.